Honestly, we did not have this serious conversation until after we got married, which caused a good amount of friction in those first year or two of our marriage.
I take responsibility. I take responsibility. I didn't want to have the conversation. What was there to talk about? We were living just fine.
Hey everybody, we're Robert
And Zaira Solano.
We're the authors of Alpha Couples Build a Powerful Marriage Like a
Boss.
And today we are kicking off our video series on finances. We're gonna give you valuable tips and lessons to help you and your spouse or soon-to-be spouse build an incredible and fiscally responsible marriage.
Preach.
Amen. Real quick though, this is the first of a series of videos. If you like what you hear, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you can follow on and get future video updates. Also, if you want the full video series and if you want some handouts to follow along, be sure to go over at alphacouplesthrive.com and download our handouts for this class. So, let's get started.
Let's talk about not sex, but money, and the first time that we actually sat down and had a meeting. Do you remember?
I do, because you reminded me before this meeting, but no, I do not remember before now. I guess because we do it so often that they all kind of blended in together.
Well, I remember the first time we talked about money, and it's not the time that you remember. Our first time, we were dating, having some drinks, hanging out in the pool. Probably not the very best time to talk about finances with somebody that you're serious. But our real, actual, true financial first meeting was after we got married.
Yeah. Which
that's not the right way to do it.
Not the best.
Yes, not the best.
Ideally, you want to have these conversations before you enter into a marriage.
Let's repeat.
Before. Now, honestly, we did not have this serious conversation until after we got married, which caused a good amount of friction in those first year or two of our marriage.
I take responsibility. I take responsibility. I didn't want to have the conversation. What was there to talk about? We were living just fine.
Financial mutual trust between you and your partner is a huge part of having a powerful and strong marriage, which is why you need to start having these conversations early. So here's the first lesson, and I really want you to take this to heart. This is a conversation that you need to schedule beforehand. You can't just jump this on your spouse or girlfriend after dinner, or as you're sitting on the pool, drinking mojitos. This is a conversation you really should plan out a few days ahead of time so that you give your partner enough time to prepare mentally and also logistically.
For both of you, not even just your partner.
Yeah. And our first meeting, and the one that I recommend for all couples, is to talk about your assets and liabilities. And so
what you got and what you owe.
Exactly.
And it's not super duper structured, and there's only one goal. And it's to get it all out there and to put all your cards on the table and be very, very clear on your financial situation.
Let's jump right in then.
Yep.
All right. Your first meeting, assets and liabilities. The first time we ever did it, we just did it on pen and paper. If you want a handout to follow along, you can go over to alphacouplesthrive.com and download that handout. Or you can put it on a computer too. Now, we did this on pen and paper, and then later we transferred it to an Excel document. But we're going to walk through what that very first meeting looked like on pen and paper. And I have my surface here, so we're going to sketch it out on my surface. All right, here's what I want you to do with your partner. If you've never done this before, grab a piece of paper
and follow along.
You're going to make two columns. On the left side, you're going to make a heading called assets. And on the right side, you're going to make a heading called liabilities. Now, your assets are, like Sarah said earlier, the things that you own. They can be in the form of money in terms of savings accounts, bank accounts, or they could be in the form of property, and things that you can sell in exchange for money. So the most common assets people have to begin with are checkings and savings accounts.
Followed by your retirement accounts, such as your 401k, simple IRA, Roth IRA, anywhere that you're saving money for retirement.
And the next asset that most people own is their car or their vehicles. If you don't know the value of your vehicles, we like to use Kelley Blue Book. You can Google Kelley Blue Book to find the website. We put in our car and then find out what the resale value is.
And just to distinguish leased vehicle from a vehicle that you're financing, we do not put leased vehicles under assets because it's not yours. You're pretty much renting it for several years. So this is only for vehicles that you're financing.
Yep. And this isn't the new value of a vehicle. This is the value of a vehicle if you sold it now, today,
yeah,
which is why you use Kelley Blue Book.
And in Kelley Blue Book, it'll ask you for make, model, condition, miles, etc. Aside from vehicle, also very popular for everybody, your home that you are financing, that you're paying for on a monthly basis. Maybe you have rental properties like that condo that you purchased, as your first home and you don't live there anymore, but you have a tenant living there. Sometimes you have land that you inherited or that you bought and you're looking to develop it at some point later in the future.
And then you may also have some high dollar value items. So some people may have jewelry that they inherited from their parents, or maybe they have some collectible art. Those things may be worth money. If you list something as a high dollar value item, the key is it should be something that you can sell relatively easily. So if no one's gonna ever in a million years buy your mother's bracelet that she wore to her sweet 16.
Or your stamp collection.
Yeah, some stamps may be worth money, some not. But if you can't reasonably sell your collectible items.
And if you don't plan to.
Yeah, then don't list that as an asset. Assets are something that you can sell reasonably easily if you needed to.
And then under liabilities is everything that you owe, all of your outstanding debt across the board, whether it's credit cards, your car loan, your mortgage. If you have any IOUs, maybe you borrowed money from a family member or a friend to start a business or put a down payment on a home, all of that counts under liabilities.
If you owe back taxes from a year or two before that you haven't paid up yet, that's a liability. If you have doctor bills that have been piling up for a while that you need to catch up on, that's a liability. Now, the key with bills though is your liabilities aren't your monthly bills. So just because I owe $60 every month to Sprint for my phone doesn't mean that that's a liability. That's just a monthly recurring expense. But if I owe $10,000 on a car loan, then that is a liability.
And that's pretty much it under liability as far as examples of what we commonly have for ourselves and other couples similarly situated like us.
Don't forget your student loans too, if you still owe student loans as well.
And one thing that we didn't forget, but aren't gonna get into today, is your business. Your business is hopefully an asset depending on the financials of what you have going on. One of the reasons that we didn't put it on here is because that is a completely separate subject that we can film a whole nother video on how to value your business. And if you haven't had a recent valuation of it, that's really hard to put your finger on. Yeah. So we understand that a business is an asset, especially if it doesn't have more debt than what it's actually worth, but we're not gonna add that one for today.
Yeah, I think the only reason you may consider adding a business to this sheet is if you owe significantly more money than the business is worth or bringing in. If the business has a lot of overhead debt, you may want to consider including it or at least discussing it later in this conversation. Let's just run through this one real quick and let's see what this would look like for a normal couple. And we're going to make up some numbers here, but you would go through this and you'd say, okay, checkings. Well, I have 5K in checkings, and Zaira has 20K. And then let's say savings, I would have, let's say 10K, and Zaira doesn't have any savings. She has 0. All her money's in her checking account. And then 401K, let's say I have 60K, and then Zaira has, let's say 80K. And again, we're just making these numbers up. The value of our cars, my car may be worth 15K, and Zaira's car may be worth 10K, and
so on and so forth.
And so on and so forth. Now, when we first got married, we didn't really have a whole lot of real estate. I had one property in Atlanta that was worth a good amount. But other than that, I didn't really have any high dollar value items or stocks, and neither did Zaira. And if we add all this up, then our total assets would be 500K. Then we would do the same thing with liabilities. At the time, I had a mortgage that was about 150K. I had about $20,000 in credit card debt. I had a car loan that was about 10K. And Zaira had a car loan that was about 20K. And she didn't have any credit card debt. We didn't have any IOUs or any student loans. And if we added those numbers up, that would equal 200K. If we subtract 200 from 500K, that gave us a net worth of about 300K. And this is typically what a lot of people would refer to as your net worth as a couple.
And net worth is something that when you're Googling to read about maybe a celebrity or a politician or an author or someone, a lot of times Wikipedia and news articles refer to this net worth, and basically it's exactly what we just did. So now you can figure yours out.
Yeah. And typically when you're talking about people with a lot of money, like Jeff Bezos, a big part of their net worth is how much stock they owe in companies like Amazon. So the reason Jeff Bezos is the richest man on earth is because he owes a lot of stock, which would be included in his assets column.
And that's something that we didn't mention before, but another example of an asset that you can add.
Yeah. Now, once you get to this point, then the next step is to go back and have a conversation about any areas that you may be concerned with. For example, at the time, Zaira was really concerned about my credit card debt. I had 20K in credit card debt compared to her 0K in credit card debt. And this is a great time to practice empathetic communication. And what does empathetic communication mean? Do you remember?
It does. It means that you have to come from a place of expressing your feelings and how this idea, this thing makes you feel. So rather than asking questions or making judgments about the 20,000, I would say, honey, you have $20,000 worth of credit card debt. I'm really concerned about our future. How are we going to pay that? I'm just really worried about it.
Notice she said, I am concerned, I am worried. Not, why do you have $20,000 in credit card debt? What's wrong with you? Why haven't you paid this off yet? She approached the conversation in the I tense, which makes me more receptive. And now the way I reply back to that empathetically is I say something like, babe, I acknowledge you. I understand that you are concerned about the 20K in credit card debt and how that may be worrisome or troublesome for you. But I have a good plan on how to pay that off, and I think that we're going to be able to pay it off in the future, and we can talk about that in more detail.
And that's all you need to do. At this meeting, you're not going to go through, oh my gosh, how are we going to pay this debt or that debt, or when are we going to sell this home or that home. This, again, is just putting your cards on the table to have an understanding of each other's finances.
Yep.
And it's so important because the number one reason why couples divorce is finances. Over and over and over again, not laying your cards out on the table, not being clear about each other's financial situation and what your goal is for finances as a couple is the main reason that people divorce. So we want to help you and as many people as possible not be a divorce statistic.
In the future, we'll have another meeting where we'll talk about our income and our expenses and make an actionable plan on how we're going to save money and how we're going to pay off debt. But this initial meeting is just to lay the cards out on the table, as Zaira said, so that you can begin to understand the other person's financial background and start aligning as a couple.
And the very and most important part of the meeting comes at the end, and that's when you set and schedule when's our next meeting going to be, huh? I think we should do our next meeting in about 30 days on a Saturday morning. Is that cool with you?
That's cool. We need to talk about our income and expenses, and
Our budget.
Yeah, and I'll come prepared to explain how I'm going to pay off my credit card debt.
And you put that meeting on your calendar. If you are working professionals like us, you live and die by your calendar, so you want to make sure you have this on there. If you have to move it, fine. Just don't move it 20 million times. Make sure that you set it and make time for each other, because this is really, really, really important.
That's it. That's our first financial meeting. We hope you enjoyed this video. We got more coming. This is only the first of a series. To see the full series of videos, be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Be sure to head over to alphacouplesthrive.com. You can get handouts to go along with these videos, as well as the syllabus. and be sure to check out our book, Alpha Couples, Build a Powerful Marriage Like a Boss. It's available on Amazon, or you can buy it at alphacouplesbook.com, where we talk about finances and how we manage our relationship as a badass entrepreneurial couple. All right, everyone. Have a great day. Have a beautiful marriage, and have a spectacular life.